India's Net Zero 2070 push has a gap, promises without bankable plans. An IEEFA report says only a few link targets to real steps, leaving investors guessing. To discuss this, we have IEEFA's Shantanu Srivastava and Tanya Rana. Welcome, Shantanu and Tanya. So the first question is, why do net zero pledges fail to translate into finance-linked transition plans?
While India has a business responsibility and sustainability reporting regulation, which is India's official sustainability reporting regulations for listed corporates in the country, it covers a wide aspects on environmental, social, and governance aspect of the business, with very scantily covering the climate-specific metrics. So what happens is, what it leads to is a scenario where a lot of companies come up with net zero targets and other decarbonization targets, but are not required to back them up with what they're going to do in the short and medium term in terms of operational changes and financial decisions, which are going to help them achieve those long-term net zero and other decarbonization targets. So that's one. The second very important factor is strategic priorities. Now, what we've seen as part of our analysis is that until and unless there are the right set of incentives and remuneration which link the achievement of climate targets to incentives for the board and key management personnel, there will not be the right set of levers for these critical players to ensure that the organization move towards achievement of the long-term net zero and other decarbonization targets. And our analysis in our report shows that across 6 high-emitting sectors in India, less than 10% of the companies are actually providing the right set of incentives for their key management personnel, which are linked with the achievement of climate targets. So that's second. Third very important factor is greenwashing. While several companies that we talked to, that we interviewed, are already undertaking certain aspects of transition planning within their organization, they're not very comfortable in sharing that information in public reporting in public domain. Sometimes corporates are not very comfortable sharing long-term 5-year, 10-year, 15-year plans in public domain, with the risk of being held accountable for not being able to achieve some of these things. And secondly, oftentimes what we've seen is that they're not very sure about what kind of information would be the right set of information to put out in the public domain. And last and very important aspect of this is capacity constraints, and this is very specific to an emerging market like India, where what we've seen is that while the top 100 companies across sectors are comparable in their disclosure practices with their global peers, even developed market peers, the problem is with companies or corporates which are 200 to 1,000 in terms of market capitalization. That is where there are systemic constraints in terms of capacities, data management and processes, and sheer lack of incentives for providing or undertaking corporate climate transition planning related disclosures in the first place.
Just for better understanding on this, what exactly makes a transition plan credible to investors and lenders?
Having long-term net zero target is just not enough. The company needs to translate it into short-term, medium-term targets, and which will show the investors or lenders what are the specific steps that the company is going to take to achieve that net zero target. This means first step is to identify clear transition levers, and then the company needs to disclose an explanation or explain how they affect these levers affect the operations and financial strategy, so the investors and lenders can see what is the climate related risks and opportunities over their investment horizon. So in our report, our analysis shows that many companies in India, particularly the small size and mid-sized company, announce net zero target, but they do not detail out the transition levers they are going to adopt to achieve that net zero target. And in some cases where they lay out or detail out the transition levers, they do not link it to the climate goal or net zero goal that they have identified. Another key element I would say for a credible transition plan is scenario analysis and stress testing. So basically, this scenario analysis shows how these levers perform across different climate scenarios, different climate pathways. This helps the investors to know and understand what is at risk, what value of their investment is at risk at a particular horizon or their investment horizon, and then they can align their own transition plans accordingly. In our analysis that we have done, we observe that this a particular scenario analysis and stress testing part is the weakest area in the Indian transition planning disclosure space. And one of the reason is also that the sustainability reporting in India, which is BRSR, Business Responsibility and Sustainability Reporting, does not require companies to disclose if the company has undertaken such type of scenario analysis.
Now, how about in terms of governance? What governance is needed to ensure delivery and accountability?
Firstly, has the organization identified roles and responsibilities right from the board of directors to key management personnel to the workforce of the company? Secondly, has the organization identified the current skills and the competencies in all these three kind of personnel in the organization, and where they lack in terms of achievement of the climate targets of the company? And are they also investing into capacity building to bridge these gaps? And thirdly, and most importantly, are there the right set of incentives and remuneration in place, right from the board of directors to the workforce, incentivize these personnel to align their work with the achievement of climate targets in the short, medium, and long term within the organization? Now, what we have seen as part of our analysis in the report, that while there is some information that is available for the roles and responsibilities at the board level and key management personnel level, when you go down and you look at the skill mapping, capacity development, and incentive remuneration in place, that information is almost non-existent among most of the companies. And that is where companies today have to invest and build capacities to ensure that there is a robust governance mechanism in place, and they score well on the governance aspect of their business when it comes to corporate climate transition planning.
One factor or one element that is key and is quantifiable is the incentive and remuneration component in the transition plan. So what it does is it links the top level leadership and the transition outcomes of the company. So, but one key analysis or key outcome that we found out during our analysis is that there is the top leadership is set. They have a perfect CSO role and a committee that is affiliated to the sustainability operations of the company. But this does not trickle down to the wider operation of the company. And even if we talk about particularly incentive and remuneration, even if very few companies disclose this type of setup in their transition plans, however, they do not identify the KPIs that are involved, the key performance indicators that are adopted in linking the incentives to the executive performance.
Thank you so much for sharing your insights, Shantanu and Tanya.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you so much.
Once again, those were IEEFA, Shantanu Srivastava, Research Lead for Sustainable Finance and Climate Risk at South Asia, and Tanya Rana, Energy Analyst for South Asia. For more news, visit asian-power.com.